What's going on, everybody? Thursday, November 6th, 2025. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. We're still going to be talking post-election stuff as, look, we had a little day to digest. We had a day to soak it in, soak in the beating that Republicans took, and anyone telling you we didn't take a beating is either purposely lying to you or doesn't have the slightest idea what the hell they're talking about. Because we absolutely did, and as a matter of fact, many Republicans on both the sort of neocon side and the MAGA side are acknowledging that, because the first step to solving any problem is, of course, recognizing that there is one. Also, Nancy Pelosi has officially she hasn't stepped down, has officially announced that she will not be running for Congress again next year. Some of you may see that as a victory. I do not, because of the man who is going to take over for her. We're going to get into who those two people are running in that race. Before we get started, guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. I'm going to put it in the live chat real quick. Follow my page if you haven't yet. Thank you. Do me a favor, guys. If you're watching in the live chat, click my name. Hit that follow button. It really does help me out in a very bigly way. Let's pop this live chat up on the screen as we rock, as we roll here. Before we get started, guys, head on over to lfatv.us. That's lfatv.us. That's your home base, your mothership, your landing pad. For all things LFA-TV related, check out the LFA-TV store. And while you guys are there, consider becoming a monthly donor over at LFA-TV to help us keep the lights on over here. Over here, very good stuff. Very, very good. Very good. I hope everybody's having a phenomenal day. What's up, somebody? Bad Moon, how are you? Sophie, Nancy, Kiss, how are you? Very good stuff. Good to see everybody in the chats as always. Callie, I don't got to say hello to you because I already talked to you today. Let's see. Who else we got? We got 2RM. What's happening? Call Senator Thune to get... Oh, no. We're not getting rid of the filibuster. No. We're not getting rid of that. We'll get into that later in the show. We're not getting rid of the filibuster. That would be a silly idea. That would be a very, very silly idea. What's up in Missouri? What the hell's going on outside my window right now? How's it going? What's up? Comac, what's happening? Oh, hello. Let's dive right on in. Let's dive in. What's up, Brittany? Hello from Brittany. Is that your name or is that a place? Whatever. Let's dive right on in, guys. So, we've had 24 hours to digest, 36 hours, to digest the utter thumping that Republicans took yesterday, which they did. They absolutely did. Anyone telling you they didn't is lying to you. They're lying to you, or maybe they don't know what they're talking about if we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, we know what happened in New York City. We know what happened in Virginia, and we know what happened in New Jersey. And many people will say, but Kevin, we weren't going to win those anyway. You're right, we weren't going to win those. However, every county in Virginia, now that we've got the final totals, every single county moved to the left. Not just Loudoun, not just Prince William, not just the ones outside of Washington, D.C., but all of them. Even the ones in Western Virginia that are traditionally deep red even went more blue. Same thing happened in New Jersey, where Mikey Sherrill found 500,000 more votes than Phil Murphy did 4 years ago. 500,000 votes that we're going to have to make up for in some kind of way in the midterms if we decide we want to take over the House. Now, I'm going to give you a very dumb take on what happened in New York City. We've got this from Front Page Magazine that says Mamdani only won 14% of U.S. adults. There's no mandate. First off, that's the exact same argument that people use against President Trump, who obviously came into the White House with a mandate. But let's read the story, and I'm going to tell you why this is a very silly take. A very silly take. And I like Front Page. Who wrote this? Daniel Greenfield. I don't know him. Zohran Mamdani won a little over 1 million votes at the current count in a city with 7 million adults. That's roughly 14%. The total election turnout was a little over 2 million, making the election turnout 28%. That's not even a third of New York City's population. The New York City election turnout has always been weak, and while the city has a large illegal alien population, it still has 5 million registered voters. That's below a 40% turnout rate of registered voters. The media is hyping it as the largest election turnout in decades, only if you don't pay attention to population growth. That is true. In 1993, between the showdown between Giuliani and Dinkins, who was a racist hack who let the city burn and whom Bill de Blasio viewed as an inspiration, 1.9 million people turned out in a city with a population with less than 3 million voters. That's 59%. Absolutely. When Mayor Bloomberg took over Giuliani's policies, the liberal Democrat was able to score over 40% of the turnout. Absolutely. Now, why is this a silly take? Mathematically, it seems to make total sense. And it absolutely does. Mathematically. Elections get decided. Decisions get decided by those people who show up. No matter what it is. Decisions get made by those who show up. And yes, by percentage, the turnout was lower. But that is not how we calculate wins and losses in this country. We do it by sheer number of votes. And when it comes down to sheer number of votes, Zohran Mamdani did phenomenal. He absolutely did. Sure, Andrew Cuomo was able to come right on his heels with just under 1 million votes. But if Republicans don't wake up to what is glaring them in the face, the midterms are going to be a bloodbath again. And we will get impeachment after impeachment. Nothing will get done. The agenda will be halted, as too will the second Trump administration, as we saw during the first one. But Kevin, you're saying to yourself, Kevin, we weren't going to win these anyway. Sure, you just broke down the fact that almost every county in Virginia, every county in Virginia broke more to the left, and almost every county in New Jersey broke more to the left. Sure, Donald Trump's victory was able to be secured with the votes of young men. That would be Gen Z, 18 to 30-year-olds. And sure, those people broke for Zohran Mamdani in a very serious way. But I still don't believe it, you may say. You may say, I still don't believe it, that we're in trouble. Well, let's talk about some other races. Some other races that many of you may not have heard of. Because obviously those were the three big ones. What if we lost, 2 special election seats, 2 special governor seats? Are they governors? 2 special elections in suburban Georgia. What if we had lost those? Oh, that's right, we did. But Georgia, it's kind of purple. What if the Mississippi House of Delegates is no longer a supermajority for Republicans? What if Democrats were able to pick up so many seats in Mississippi that Republicans no longer have a supermajority and now have to work with moderate Democrats? What if that had happened? Well, it did. It did. 3 Supreme Court justices in Pennsylvania stayed Democrat. The only shining star on a hill, the only morsel of, goodness one can think of happened in Minneapolis, where the Somali socialist Omar Fattah lost his bid to be Minneapolis mayor to Jacob Frey. Many of you will remember Jacob Frey for being the guy who allowed the city to burn following George Floyd, who went to a George Floyd protest and was chastised and yelled at by his own constituents, to which he very easily bent the knee to. That guy winning is the only thing Republicans can hang their hat on. That is the only race that Republicans can even look at and say, sure, that was a good one. All across the country. Republicans need to wake up. They need to get their ish together. in a very serious way. And they need to do it soon. And it's not just me saying it. It's a lot of people saying it. A lot of people are saying that these things need to happen. And people need to wake up to the fact that if you live, particularly if you live on Long Island, I want you to know you came very close to having Democratic representatives all across this island, not only in, places like New York City, but in many of the Nassau County races, in many of the Suffolk County races. Not in Smithtown, of course, because I ran that election, so naturally that election went very well. But I shouldn't say I ran it. Someone's going to yell at me. I took part in it, so that's why there was a win there. But in many other places across Long Island, in the deep red area to which we live here in our little corner of the world, things were almost very, very bad. And Republicans need to wake up. Here was Megyn Kelly saying the exact same thing.
The Republican Party needs to get its shit together. ASAP. I'm really glad we spent the past couple of weeks, as Sean Davis of The Federalist put it, policing some young person's group chat, what a podcast host said, and what the head of a think tank over at Heritage had to say. I'm really glad that the Republicans devoted so much time to that. That was a great move. Terrific move. Way to stick together, to really shine a light on what matters. The Republicans like to lose. They enjoy losing. They enjoy when they are embattled and in a losing position and complaining. They love it. They do it really well. Less good at winning, especially when Donald Trump is not there to get them over the line. The Republican Party is not strong. Donald Trump is strong. Republicans don't know how to win. They don't know who to run. They don't know what to do when daddy's not there to fly them across the finish line. And that's just been so obvious. Meanwhile, Trump is all over the Middle East while people's groceries bills are still high. They're still dealing with inflation. They're suffering. Like, that's it. OK, we're focus on domestic policy and on making people's lives better. That's really all I have to say. Those are my top line thoughts. There's a lot to get into on why this happened and so on, but that's my top line takeaway.
She's right. She's absolutely right. We need to stop worrying about solving wars all over the world and start worrying about domestic policy. We need to start talking about affirmative goods and not what we are against. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? Well, we're against illegal immigration. What are we for? What policies are we for? Because a guy like Zoran, he came out and he said, this is what I'm going to do. And that is how you win elections. By telling people what you're going to do. Here was Vivek Ramaswamy saying basically the same thing.
We got our asses handed to us in New Jersey, Virginia, and New York City. Democrats swept all three. There's two key lessons for Republicans. Listen carefully. Number one, our side needs to focus on affordability. Make the American dream affordable. Bring down costs, electric costs, grocery costs, healthcare costs, and housing costs, and lay out how we're going to do it. And number two, cut out the identity politics. It doesn't suit Republicans. It's not for us. That's the woke left's game, not ours. We don't care about the color of your skin or your religion. We care about the content of your character. That's who we are.
No, Vivek really dancing around that second one there, really dancing around those words, what he really meant. But he's right. We need to focus on what we're going to do for people. How we are going to make the concept of the American dream possible for the next generation. Because look, it's no doubt you guys have kids. I'm sure many of them are living in the room that they grew up in. How are we going to make life affordable and possible for the next generation? The boomers out there, you guys are doing good. Most of you are doing very well. But this is the first generation of young people who are growing up where they know their lives are going to be more difficult than their parents. They know it. It used to be in America that you needed a plan to fail. You had to try and fail. You had to be a junkie, or you had to get into debt. Maybe you owe the mob some money. You had to get into a bad way about yourself. You had to try and fail. Now you have to try and succeed. And that is a very different swing. He was Benny Johnson saying the same thing.
Final thing I'm going to say here is that in the Constitution it says life, liberty, and the pursuit of property in certain other instances. And that's something that we've lost in this country. I'm particularly horrified that the American dream of owning a home is so out of reach for all of the young people here. If you are 35 and younger, home ownership rates are at 30%. That's down by half from a generation ago. And we need to fix that. Who here wants to own a home one day? Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not one to break news in front of massive stadiums of people, but I want to announce right now a massive interagency and interinstitutional effort in order to encourage and provide resources from a massive federal level and a legislative level to ensure that we reignite the American dream for first-time young home buyers. It will happen in this administration. We are going to make the American dream affordable again. We are going to make owning a home great again. And we're going to be able to raise our families, our Labradors, in these beautiful houses with white picket fences. And we're going to live like our grandparents, because you know what? They had a lot of nice things figured out. And you can sit on your front porch here in Alabama with your shotgun, happy in your Trump home.
I mean, you see the amount of people that raise their hand who wants to own a home one day. Benny Johnson was giving that speech at the University of Auburn in Alabama. It is almost impossible to purchase a home where I live. We look at places like Florida and the Carolinas and the Gulf Coast down there, and everybody's headed there. Why? Because it's easier to buy a home down there. Yet those kids at the University of Auburn, they cannot afford one. While I look at it like a dream. Maybe one day I'll leave and I'll go move to the Gulf of America. I didn't plan that. I just happened to see the hat there. Maybe I'll move there one day and buy a house because it's more affordable than it is on Long Island. If those kids can't do it, how the hell are people on the coast supposed to? California, New York, New Jersey. It's not easy. And I want to be clear. A lot of the people out there, and I'm not really reading the chat, but I can just assume, owning a home is the only way up the wealth ladder in America. It's the only way to do it. And there are ways that we could do this. Number one, we could stop LLCs, we could stop corporations from buying single-family homes for any reason. To stop places like State Street and Vanguard and BlackRock from buying up all the single-family homes and then re-renting them out to either illegal immigrants or Americans who will never enter the income ladder. We could start there. That would be a place we could start. Only individuals can buy single-family homes. You're a corporation, you want to build an apartment complex, you go right ahead. No problem. No problem. The average, husband and wife with 2 kids and a dog, they're not going to be building apartment complexes. Nobody would expect that. But a single-family home like that, if it has under 3 bathrooms, an LLC shouldn't be able to purchase it. And moreover, if they have one now, they must sell it. This is the difference between your traditional neoconservative laissez-faire economic argument and a more populist message. And the Republican Party needs to move in that more populist message. They have to. Because if they don't, they are going to continue to lose to the Zohar Mamdanis of the world. They're going to keep losing. Why? Because a guy like him, and I'm not saying I agree with any of his policies. I don't think I need to explain that to the people in this chat. But he's out there telling you guys, you have a problem. I have a solution. Now you, me, we may think that the solution that he's coming up with is a failed experiment known as communism. I agree with you. But when you're starving, you're not picky about what food you're going to eat. When you're 27, married, living in a $5,000 a month studio apartment in Greenwich Village, and you never see your life getting any better, somebody comes along and offers you a shit sandwich, you're still going to eat it. And that's what happened in New York City. And that's what happened in places all over the nation 2 days ago. I often do not believe in federal government solutions to market problems. However, when people like Adam Smith came up with the invisible hand theory in The Wealth of Nations, they never thought that there would be a company out there like BlackRock that has $20 trillion in assets. More than almost every country in the world. None of them would have thought that a corporation like NVIDIA would be more valuable than the entire country of Germany. That's a real sentence. NVIDIA is now more valuable than Germany is. Not like a shithole country, not like one of these ones you can't find on a map, kind of a big one. And that's a real sentence. NVIDIA, the first $5 trillion company, now has a larger GDP than the country of Germany. People who are too rigid in their ideologies, too rigid in their principles, and can't move with the times will be left behind. And I do not want to see the Republican Party be left behind in that sort of way. J.D. Vance had a pretty conclusive list of the stuff that we need to do. Now, he thinks it's an overreaction what happened the other day. But he had a few thoughts, and I agree with pretty much all of them. His first was Scott Pressler, Turning Point USA, and a bunch of other people are out there working hard to register voters. I said it in 2022, and I've said it repeatedly ever since. Our coalition is low propensity voters. That means we have to do a better job of turning out voters than we have in the past. Absolutely. Hi, JD. I'm Kevin, and I'm from Long Island. Give me the resources to do it. Number two, we need to focus on the home front. The president has done a lot that has already paid off in lowering interest rates and lowering inflation, but we inherited disaster from Joe Biden, and Rome wasn't built in a day. Absolutely. Number three, and this is the most important one, which Megyn Kelly alluded to, Vivek Ramaswamy alluded to it also. This is the theme of the show. Infighting is stupid. I care about my fellow citizens, particularly young Americans, being able to afford a decent life, and I care about immigration and our sovereignty. I care about establishing peace overseas so our resources can be used at home. I care about those things too. Let's work together. So if you're out there and you're arguing over Tucker Carlson interviewing Nick Fuentes, who, I don't like Nick Fuentes. I don't like him. I don't know why I have to caveat my sentence with that. But if you're out there breaking up the coalition over Tucker and Shapiro, or Israel, non-Israel, or neocon versus not, we can have those arguments in the 6 months leading up to an election. But when it's go time, it's got to be go time. We could sit there and chastise a young Republican group chat where 6 assholes, all of who I know, were talking some real nasty stuff to each other. But for that to occupy a week-long news cycle, all it does is divide the coalition. It divides the base, and it lowers turnout. To JD's point, Republican voters are low-propensity voters. And we need to turn those voters out in much higher numbers. The fourth thing I'm going to say, and it's going to be the big one, is Republicans have to figure out how to win when Trump is not on the ballot. Because they can't figure it out. They're mystified. Their mind doesn't work. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because in many of these low turnout elections, in these off-year elections, a lot of entities are run by your local establishments who still think it's 1985, who have no idea what TikTok or Twitter is. And that's where you come in. And that's where you come in. That's where you're able to put your foot on the scale. To get involved in your local Republican committees. To do more than just tweeting about things. And look, I want to be clear. A lot of you followed me on Twitter yesterday, and I really do appreciate that. As a matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to put my Twitter handle back in the bio. Back in the bio again. Back in the live chat again. As, some of you did follow me, which I really do appreciate. Boom. There it is. I do a lot of shit talking on Twitter. But that can't be it. There has to be boots on the ground with people doing what needs to be done. It has to be. If you're just watching this and you're not getting involved, that's a problem. I know a lot of people will say, Kev, I have kids, I got things to do. Every one of you can download the Early Vote Action app and text people. Every one of you can do that. Every one of you can do that. And if we don't draw out those low propensity voters in this midterm election, we're going to be in serious trouble. And it's about moving things into the future. Moving the party into the future, and that happens by you getting involved. That happens by you getting involved. We're going to move on in just a second. I'm going to put in all the live chats wherever it is you're watching. Give me a follow over there on X. I really do appreciate it. That's that and Facebook's my main platform. If you guys wouldn't mind, boom, hit that little follow button on Twitter. I really do appreciate all of the support. We're going to move on because there's more stuff that I want to get to. Whoa. Somebody just sent a message in the Facebook chat that is preposterously long. There's no way I could possibly... Who is that? 2A for NY. There is no way I could possibly read that right now. I'll read it later. Guys, before we keep rocking and rolling, here's Jeremy.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? Well, it's that time of year again, isn't it? My favorite time of year. Fall. Oh, I love the leaves. I love the autumn smell. I love the pumpkins. I love it all right before the snow flies. But what I don't love that comes with the cold weather and the fall weather is the flu, are the sniffles, the cold. All those common cold sniffles that you get every year. And if you have kids in the house, little kids going to and fro school, and they're coming back and they're touching everything and they're bringing the bacteria and all those viruses home from school, you don't want anything to do with that. You want to be proactive rather than reactive. That's why we're going to talk about propolis today. You know what propolis is? Well, ladies and gentlemen, propolis is what works as a barrier to keep the beehive absolutely safe. And what am I talking about? Well, Beekeepers Naturals. Now, my wife really turned me on to this. This is an endorsement of my wife and then myself as well. Beekeepers Naturals, folks, that is exactly what this is. This is a proactive rather than a reactive, all natural, all clean alternative to big food and big pharma. You've got your Beekeepers vitamin C packs, which are perfect for on the go, right? You've got your Beekeepers Propolis nasal spray. A few shots up the nose, clears out your nostrils, cleans any congestion that you have, and it's all natural, and it's going to work as a proactive barrier to any of that unwanted bacteria getting in. How about the Beekeepers All Natural Propolis Immune Throat Spray? 3 or 4 pumps of that a day, and anything that you're breathing in is going to be either repelled or killed right away. That's the amazing thing about propolis, and that is the amazing thing about Beekeepers Naturals. And I got a 20% discount for you. What's better than that? 20% discount. Look, you can even get the throat soothing pops and the kids prebiotic fiber pops, along with the throat spray, along with the nasal spray, along with the vitamin C packs. Folks, they've got it all, and it's an all natural, clean, beautiful option for you to have in order to, get away from the big food, get away from the big pharma, and go more natural, especially with a 20% discount. How can you not go to Beekeepers Naturals today /LFA and get your 20% discount? Clean out your medicine cabinet today with beekeepers.com /LFA. And now back to the show.
So let's get to government shutdown news, because obviously we are now in the longest government shutdown in American history. Me and the boys were talking about this before in our in the Slack channel that we have. A lot of people are talking about the concept of nuking the filibuster. A lot of people out there are talking about the idea of quote, nuking the filibuster. What is the filibuster? Well, the filibuster is a procedural vote that goes on before the vote. It's one of these archaic things that we do in the Senate, and a lot of people have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with the filibuster. Donald Trump has called for the ending of this procedural vote that says you need 60 votes to end debate in order to vote on a bill. So you don't need 60 votes to pass a bill. You need 60 votes to stop the debate on that bill. Now, that sounds ridiculous. You're right, it is. It is. And I would ask you all, I am not an advocate of getting rid of the filibuster. And my simple question would be, would you like it if future Senate Majority Leader Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did it? If your answer to that is yes, that's okay, because she will be the Senate Majority Leader at some point. She will be, 1,000%. Chuck Schumer's going to get primaried in 26 by her. There's going to be a new Democratic leader in the House, as Hakeem Jeffries is probably going to be primaried as well. So would you like, we'll use it as it is right now, would you like Chuck Schumer to only need 50 votes to pass a bill? If your answer to that is no, then we should keep the filibuster, because right now we are in power. But there will come a time, possibly in 2026, in which we are not. In which we're not. And even if we do remain in power, let's remember that Murkowski and McConnell will still be in the Senate next year, and they never vote with us. So we're going to need at least 53 senators, what we have right now, in order to pass these bills. 2A4NY says, other than the Senate, where else does a majority not rule? That's a great question. That is a great question. I'm going to tell you why. Because the Senate is not supposed to be a democratic institution. As a matter of fact, up until the early 1900s, you didn't even vote for senator. It took a constitutional amendment in order for people to have senators popularly elected. Before that, they were appointed by state legislatures at a time where states had way more power than they do now, which was the entire purpose of setting up a bicameral system like we have. Because if you vote for the Senate and you vote for the House, there's no point in even having the Senate. There literally isn't. The idea of the Senate was supposed to be a check on the rule of the masses. And the House was supposed to be the check on the rule of the establishment. That got turned over. What was it? Was it the 22nd Amendment? No, the 20th maybe? One of them. I forget which one it is. Sorry. I forgot which amendment it is. It's one of those. Somewhere in the 20s. Somewhere around there. If you make the Senate just by a majority vote, there's no point in having the damn thing in the first place. everything could just go through the House and be done with. Some people would say that's a good idea. I would say it definitely is not, because pure majority rule is terrifying. You guys want to see? Watch, we'll do this. There's 3 of us in a room. Here we go. There's me, there's Sean, and there's Jeremy Harrell. 3 of us. And Sean and Jeremy vote to enslave me. Majority rules. Nothing I can do about it. Kevin is now a slave. That's why simple majority rule doesn't work. Because the rule of the 50+1 in this country is not good. The 60 vote threshold is a good idea because it puts a check on the radical swinging of particular policy eras. And look, we are in a radical policy era. Partisanship has never been worse in America. Partisan voting has never been worse in America. The idea of the sort of liberal Republican or the blue dog Democrat doesn't exist anymore. I would say now is probably a better time than ever to have the filibuster. Some people may disagree with me. But, and that's okay, because we're allowed to disagree on this show. We're allowed to disagree. Now, with that being said, now that the election is over, turns out Democrats are coming to the table to keep the government open. Here was CNN.
Yeah. There's a lot of movement right now, Dana, behind the scenes to try to reopen the government. There was a historically long government shutdown, 37 days, the longest ever in history, and the consequences piling up by the day for the American people, which means that the pressure really is on at this key moment. Democrats are weighing a deal that would reopen the government either until the end of this year or early next year, tied to a larger funding package for several agencies. But one of the key questions remains about whether Democrats will accept a vote to extend expiring Obamacare subsidies. Remember, that was at the heart of this dispute to begin with. They had said that those expiring subsidies must be dealt with as part of this negotiation, as part of this funding bill, because people will see their premiums increase, and it must be dealt with now. But what Republicans are offering is a separate vote not tied to the funding bill. The question is going to be if enough Democrats say, okay, fine, we have to vote to reopen the government, and we'll vote on this later, even though there's no commitment that separate health care vote could ultimately become law. I put that question to one of the key Democratic negotiators, Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire. I asked her about the Democratic concern from many of her colleagues about putting this to a separate vote and the potential that could never become law.
If that can't pass, the ACA vote, then what do you say?
Well, it's not clear that it can't pass.
Uh-huh.
There are a lot of Republicans who I've been talking to who think we need to address the issue.
But the Speaker's not committed to put it on the floor.
Well, I can't speak for the Speaker. If he doesn't understand that people can't afford their health insurance rates, then he's got a problem.
I'm not promising anybody anything. I'm going to let this process play out.
And that last comment, critical. That Speaker Mike Johnson making very clear there that he would not commit to any separate vote on the House floor on Obamacare subsidies, which is what Democrats have been demanding. So the question ultimately here, Dana, is whether or not Democrats will say, okay, we still need to reopen the government. We'll see what happens on health care, even if there's no guarantee that can become law. And we require 8 Democrats in total to advance a bill to become law. Unclear if that will happen. But that's where the discussion is at this key moment here in the Capitol.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. That statement from House Speaker Mike Johnson was very telling, because I know I'm hearing and you're hearing as well that House Republicans are saying we can't deal with this. So you know who's going to have to give them cover? The President of the United States. We'll see if that happens in private or in public or both. Manu, thank you so much.
Of course, what CNN leaves out there is that there's also another caveat to reopening the government on the Democratic side, and that is $500 million in funding to PBS, because I don't know what we would all do if we didn't have PBS. It turns out that if PBS was actually good, do you know what people would do? They would pay for it. Do you know how I know that? Because I pay for PBS. Because I'm a dork, and I watch history documentaries in the middle of the night. They could reopen the government if they wanted to. They're still choosing not to. But now that the election is over, they have a hell of a lot more impetus in order to do it. A lot more impetus to do it. Will they do it? We shall see, because we're seeing FAA flight cancellations all over the country because of staffing shortages. With that being said, I did get a $200 flight to Palm Beach, so I am very excited. I haven't seen a $200 flight to Florida in a long ass time, so I'm very happy right now. Giddy up, let's go. Before we keep going, MyPillow.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed, because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Guys, head on over to MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD, for up to 80% off everything on the website. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. So, speaking of Congress, because, it's what, kind of what we do on this show, Nancy Pelosi will be leaving the House of Representatives after a very short stay of 2,000 years. Nancy Pelosi knows the Constitution front and back because she was actually there when they wrote it. She has made it official. She will not be running for re-election.
Yeah, you as well. Here we go now to Washington. The former House Speaker, leading congressional Democrat Nancy Pelosi, has announced in a video a moment ago that she will not seek re-election. She has represented San Francisco for nearly 40 years. She's 85 years old. The history she has in Washington speaks for itself. She has been a long-range player in the Democratic Party.
So old Nancy is out. Adios, lady. You were a disaster for the country. You were phenomenal for your party. I will say, from a pure politics perspective, there's almost nobody I've ever seen in my entire life better than Nancy Pelosi. Maybe Tip O'Neill would be a little bit better, but there's very few people who have had a stranglehold on their party the way Nancy Pelosi has over the course of her career. Now, many people will, hey, she's gone. No. Nancy Pelosi is not leaving the House of Representatives because she thinks it's time to pass the torch to a new generation. No. She's leaving the House of Representatives because she knows she's about to be beaten. Because she doesn't want to face a bloody primary against two people in particular. One of them, I get his name wrong all the time, and I'm not saying it to be rude. Saikat Chakrabarti, AOC's former campaign manager, who is well-funded, and he is very, very good at this. And then another candidate, I keep saying Anthony Weiner. Scott Weiner, who, I want to be clear, is about a notch above. Just like if he went like a little bit lower, he would be a full-blown pedophile. That's a real statement. He voted to lower the age of consent in California to 16. He also voted so that you no longer have to inform someone you're having sex with that you're HIV positive. What could possibly go wrong there? Those are the two people, and I'm sure there will be others, who will be jumping into that Nancy Pelosi congressional race. Scott Weiner, literally one of the worst people. He's also, gigantic. He's 7 feet tall. He's a foot taller than a person should be. But that's not really the point. That's why Nancy Pelosi is leaving. And upon hearing the news, Senator Josh Hawley said that she should offer the American people a parting gift on her way out the door.
Hopefully it'll be the Pelosi Act. She'll be the opportunity to finally ban stock trading by members of Congress. Nobody made more, I think, than her. I could be wrong. A lot of people made a lot of money. But
that's what you'll remember her for?
Well, that's if we can get the law passed, I think that would be a great achievement for the American people. There's nothing more outrageous, Mono, than the fact that members of Congress trade millions of dollars worth of stock every year, make huge sums of money with information the public doesn't get. And we ought to pass the Pelosi Act right now.
She says she's never done anything illegal or
Yeah,
unethical.
sure, of course. They
her?
all say that. Yeah, I've been a prosecutor for years, they all say.
You don't believe her?
What I believe is that she's got access to information just like other members of Congress that the public doesn't. And technically, that's not insider trading. So it probably isn't illegal, but it ought to be. And we ought to ban it. We ought to ban it across the board. And Republicans and Democrats. I mean, she's an egregious example, but there are a lot of Republicans, who trade stocks, including in the Senate, who trade a lot of money in stocks. And same rule ought to apply to them across the board. So that'd be a great legacy.
For people with flights this weekend, you don't expect this to be resolved by the end of the weekend?
I don't know the answer to that. You'd have to ask, I guess, my Democrat colleagues, but it should have been resolved is today day 37, guys? I mean, it should have been resolved 37 days ago. And so this is terrible news about the reduction in flight capacity. That's going to impact probably tens of thousands of people.
I tell you what, if my flight, we'll get to the Pelosi Act, but if my flight to Palm Beach is canceled, I'm going to be so pissed. I'm going to be so pissed. Of course, because it affects me. The Nancy Pelosi Act, which of course would ban members of Congress from trading individual options, should absolutely happen. You want to keep your money in some sort of regular mutual fund, go right ahead. I don't think people should go to Congress and then become poor. I think they should definitely not go to Congress and then become rich. I don't care how nice your winery is, Nancy Pelosi. I think that would be a very nice parting gift for the American people. I think that would be very, very nice on her way out the door. Wild. Absolutely wild stuff. Let me pull this up real quick. Before we keep rocking and rolling today, guys, check out Old Glory Bank.
When big banks decide who gets access to America's financial systems and who doesn't, who do you think gets left out? Middle Americans who proudly wave their pro-America values. Cancel culture in banking is corrosive. It limits your participation in a vibrant, free market economy. Fortunately, you can fight back. You now have the opportunity to invest in the bank that's investing in a fair American banking system, one based in freedom. Ownership in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank, is here. Old Glory Bank is a full-service FDIC-insured bank that's the alternative to overreaching, un-American big banks. We stand for privacy, security, and liberty. We stand for freedom, family, faith, and the flag. We stand for all the values you stand for, and for the values big banks can't stand. So help keep banking in the hands of Main Street, not Wall Street. To invest in Old Glory Bank, go to oldglorybank.com.
Guys, head on over to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com and start investing with a bank that supports your values and your principles. Guys, that's oldglorybank.com, oldglorybank.com. So on the government shutdown, Tim Burchett decided, I got to tell you, for a guy most of us hadn't heard of like 5 years ago, for a guy no one had heard of like 5 years ago, Tim Burchett has become quite the star on the American right. Here he was on CNN going scorched earth.
Tennessee congressman. Tennessee is like the key here because I saw your governor put up a little digital billboard, if you will, a virtual billboard, just for some interested New Yorkers or maybe people in places like Virginia, New Jersey as well, urging them if they want some respite from what's coming. Look at this. Tennessee is open for business. Strong economy, low taxes, government won't get in your way. That is exactly the opposite message that the mayor-elect here in New York City has delivered. I wonder what businesses might do.
Well, thank y'all for having me on. Governor Lee's a buddy of mine. I talked to him Saturday at the UT ball game, and he's right about recruiting business. Tennessee's a low-tax state. We don't have a state income tax. It's a right-to-work state. Unions and non-union are almost 100% out there employed. If you want a job That's what the trades are booming here in Tennessee, and that's happening. But, I worry about what's going to happen to places like New York. You see Cortez, she's a friend of mine. I call her my friendly neighborhood Marxist. That's what this whole shutdown's about, is about her, because Schumer knows if she announces tomorrow, automatically she'll raise $10 million over the weekend. The dot-coms, the baby boomers, all the kids will be out there supporting her, and Schumer doesn't have that support. So this is all about her and him. Unfortunately, his ego can't get out of the way. He's more concerned about himself than he is about the future of our country and this shutdown and hurting poor people and folks I visited with today. I visited with air traffic controllers. I'm going to visit with folks tomorrow who can't get it, who are going to have their power cut off, and we're going to go into a cold spell. And that's what all this power is about. And this socialism that's creeping into our nation, it's Marxism. It's to the far extreme, and it's our own fault. Cortez, she was correct me if I'm wrong, but she was educated in public education, and her degree from a university, economics. We better start looking at where this is coming from, and we better quit funding it, and we better start looking at it right now before it's too dadgum late.
Yes,
like Margaret Thatcher said, socialism's a great thing until you run out of people to take the money from, and they're going to start taking that money pretty fast.
Well, Congressman, she also didn't know, even with that economics degree, how the unemployment rate was calculated. She said it was low because people were working 2 jobs. That's not how it's calculated.
No,
I digress. But it could benefit these old guard, kind of middle of the road Democrats, if you will, if this experiment in New York City fails rapidly, because we have a Jew-hating, jihad-adjacent incoming mayor who wants to empty the prisons. And that's just to start with. I didn't even mention the jobs. But you ought to be careful if folks up here who maybe or maybe not voted for him or maybe voted for Andy Cuomo start coming down to the big TN.
Yeah, well, as long as they don't bring their values down here. Most of the Northerners, as I prefer to call them, Yankees in a loving way, that moved down here, Lenore City, Loudoun, in my area, they all talk funny, but dadgum, they got a conservative agenda. And you know what they tell me? They're moving down here because they don't like what's up there, and they want Tennessee to stay the way it is and not embrace what's going on up there.
Yep.
And you saw in Texas.
First off, I want to be clear, Tim Burchett. I don't talk funny. You do. That's number one. Number two, please don't leave. We need the votes in 26. You want to leave after that? Feel free. Feel free. Hunter Bennett says, what is this? Are you streaming Fox News? No. No, but if you want to retweet the show, that would be great. Guys, we got a couple minutes left, and we got Zorhan news already, baby. We got Zorhan news already. You're never going to guess what he did on day one of being mayor-elect. You're never going to guess what he did. Is going to be an ongoing theme for this administration. Before we get to that, guys, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this show and everything we've got going on over here. Also, for the local audience, I'm going to have a big announcement tomorrow. We'll get to that in a little bit. Before we do, once again, guys, loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out I got to tell you, for the millennials out there, there's no way you don't like this Dare t-shirt. There's no way you don't like this. It's not possible. There's no way. There's no way. Which you can pick up at loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com and use promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. That's promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. So, day one of Mayor-elect Zorhan Mamdani. You're never going to believe what he did. He put out a video, and let's just see what he says here at the very end.
Good morning, New York City. Thank you. Last night we made history. And today, we begin the work of making a new administration. Welcome to the transition. This is the period over the next few months where we build a city hall that delivers on the promises of our campaign, to make New York City affordable and to make government accountable to the people it serves. As we prepare to govern, we'll start announcing the leaders who will help implement our agenda. People like deputy mayors who oversee entire areas of government, and the commissioners who carry out the critical work of city agencies. These appointments will be driven by excellence, integrity, and hunger to solve old problems with new solutions. Talking to organizers on the front lines of the fight to improve our city, government veterans with proven track records, policy experts from around the country and the world, and working people who know better than anyone what our neighborhoods deserve. And this will be a period, like the campaign we ran and the city hall to come, defined by transparency. Because New Yorkers deserve a government they can trust. On January 1st, I will be your mayor. New Year's Day and a new era for this city. Oh, and
Oh, wait a minute. All that sounds real nice. And then he gets to the kicker.
One more thing. Remember how I told you a few months ago to stop sending us money? You can start again. This transition requires staff, research, and an infrastructure that can meet this moment. And it will be made possible by the people who built and believe in this movement. So I hope you'll make a donation at transition2025.com. Now let's get to work.
Oh, right. So you do need other people's money. Right. Still begging for campaign donations, even after he already won the election. Typical fashion for Democrats. Oh, by the way, that new era, that new administration that he's putting forth has 3 former Bill de Blasio staffers and Joe Biden's FTC chair. So it turns out this new administration is going to be filled with old shitty staffers from past administrations. The con is happening in real time. It's happening in real time. Guys, we're going to wrap up right now. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. Giddy up, let's go. Also tomorrow, I'm going to have a big announcement. For the local audience. Oh, yeah, which you'll get here first and then across all of the other platforms immediately following the show. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. Hannah Faulkner's coming up next here on LFA TV. Until tomorrow, everybody, stay loud.